Alright, so I was talking about a problem with the tail here. When the rudder goes, it's really just tugging on this half. There's no support, so I'm basically tugging on here. It causes a torsion of the whole ring of the whole tail. That's because there's no support down there. It looks like there's a little guide here where there was supposed to be one, but there was no instructions, no packing material, or packing slip, and no indicator that there was supposed to be something there. I didn't get anything, so maybe there's supposed to be something, maybe there isn't. Anyway, I didn't get one. So I'm going to add my own. This is probably over supportive. This is a push rod for larger servos. It'll fit end to end here. So what I'm going to do is basically just burn a little chasm into the back of the wing here. So we will see how this goes. Hopefully it remains in place. And we will get a nice flat surface. Welcome back to the bench. My name is Steve Luke. I'm concluding my build for the Skywalker Mini. I have flown it since I have put in this bar here at the top. I think I'll show you that in this episode as well. This makes it so that when you change in the elevator is going to change all at once. There's no left or right pull or tug on the elevator. I did get my maiden flight in and a second one. The maiden flight didn't go so well. When I launched the airplane the first time, I hand launched it and I did a poor job. The first thing it did was nosedive, and when it nosedived, I think some bit of the motor got loose, and that'll come into play later on. The next major thing that happened the second time I launched is I had a much better hand launch, but when it was in flight, I had a hard time controlling it. It really wanted to go down, and then if I pulled up on the elevator, it was super sensitive and it would shoot straight up. And then I'd let go and it would come right back down. This is porpoising, and it was because it was tail heavy. Then realizing that it was tail heavy and that was causing basically impossible to control flight characteristics, I decided that I was going to bring it into landing. I cut down on the throttle and I wanted to do a turn, but as soon as I did a turn, the tail stalled, came right down, smacked into the ground. The motor, which had come loose, I didn't put any Loctite on it, so it had popped off. Blade actually came off as well, chopped into here, and the whole tail basically got cut in half. So it wasn't a very impressive first flight. My model got cut in half and lasted about 3 seconds. Wasn't very good. So I went back and I started to do some research. On the model, on the instruction manual for this model, it has a picture of the wings. And on the picture it has a little spot where it suggests where the center of gravity should be. And it was about a third of the way back. And so a third of the way back ended up being, so this is 114 millimeters, it was 38 millimeters is where I put the center of gravity. When I put all the electronics in, it was perfect. I didn't have to do any adjustments as long as the battery was as far to the nose as possible. Once I got the battery as far as to the nose as possible, center of gravity hit that 38 millimeter mark and everything was good. So I thought, well, that's a natural point, and it was pretty much where the marker was on the instruction manual, must be right. After that flight, figured out that that was wrong. The actual center of gravity here is 35 millimeters, so it's 3 millimeters closer forward to the front of the wing than I had measured, and it made a big difference. So I put these markers on there now to indicate where the center of gravity should be. So that's 33 millimeters from the front of the wing. Once I did that, it was clear that this thing was tail heavy, quite badly tail heavy. So I wanted to figure out how to make it not tail heavy, considering my battery was as far forward as possible. The only way to counteract it was to put more weight on the front. And I had originally put weight right here to see how much weight it would take in order to counterbalance it, and it ended up being 30 grams of just pure dead weight, and that's a lot of extra weight to be putting in the air. So the problem actually probably comes from the fact that this spar here is metal, it's bigger than it's supposed to be, and it's super far away from the center of gravity. So that's a lot of leverage that it's pulling down, meaning that there's a lot of weight since the nose is much closer to the center of gravity than the tail. I decided that I'd use leverage to my advantage. Instead of using 30 grams here, I put a couple of spars out front and then put some spacers, some nylon spacers on here. And this ended up total being about 16 grams. And this 16 grams of weight counterbalances this piece here. And so this was a much better balanced flight. I did fly it a second time. It flew much better. Unfortunately, my skill still isn't all that great. So I did crash land it a couple times on the second flight. I just have to learn how to come in for a landing. I can fly, I just can't seem to land well. And in one of my landings, I did tear the ailerons up here, and I glued them back together. I don't think you can tell where it was broken anymore. So it's right around here. You might notice that I've also closed the rudder. I took the rudder servo out. I've reconnected the rudder control surface. And the reason I don't think it actually caused any problem in my flight, but when this is out, there's just this thin piece of styrofoam connecting that carries this whole weight up here. And I was afraid that if anything went wrong, like a hard crash, this thing would snap off. And I think that's what saved me the second flight when I had come down here and I got a hard crash. The brake was right in line, so if I had broken it here without this tape in place, I think it would have stressed all the way through, and I might have lost this whole top piece. But I had already taped this closed, and just got a little tear here, which I could then glue back together. So this I did connect here. I told you before, this was chopped in half. I didn't even glue this together. I just put in duct tape to hold it in place, and it's not perfect, but it is pretty stable. It's about as stable as it was before. Other things, if you do want to play with the rudder, if you do want to use the rudder on this airplane, I think having spars that come down here just to prevent the wind from causing any crash. It probably won't help with a smack into the ground or anything like that, but it will help with flight characteristics, keeping this from fluttering back and forth. But I'm not using the rudder, and this doesn't seem to be too much of a problem, at least in my situation. That's about it. So not very successful in the air yet, but I am still learning. This airplane is way faster than I thought it was going to be. I know people have been telling me all the time in one of these videos and on the forums, this is a fast plane, this is a fast plane. And I actually put in fairly small motor, fairly small propellers, and I was hoping for something that was a little bit more smooth and slow and trainer-ish. And it recovers from crashes pretty well, but man, it's fast. I have to get used to it. So yeah, I'm sorry I don't have any video. I don't have the ability to catch it. I have a couple different ways of recording, but I don't have anybody else to do the recording, which means that as I'm flying, I can take a picture of the small piece of the sky, and you can only see what happens to fly through that area. It's not very captivating flights, and actually I think the first 2 times I've tried it, I didn't get any fly-throughs. I might have gotten 1. So yeah, not very useful at the moment. I'll see if there's something I can do to help capture some flight video, because I'm not done with this plane yet. I still have a lot of flying to do it. I'm going to learn how to fly on this plane. I want to be able to fly well, and this is the plane I'm going to learn on. So with that said, I hope I can figure out how to actually record flight video, and when I do, I will post some, I hope. Anyway, that was my recap. Sorry that for no video, but the maiden flight didn't go so well. I was not balanced correctly. The correct center of gravity is 35 millimeters, and there's this channel here cut in for the cable, which I'm not using, but the 35 millimeters is right along that channel, and that'll give you a good balance point. You'll probably have better time balancing the airplane if you use what should have been included as this bar for the elevator. I had a hard time because I'm using this bigger one. Well, thanks for watching, and alright, well, that's it for this episode, and thank you for watching.